Welcome to Hamster NBC. I'm Pears the Hamster. This is Kids Ask Why, the show where curious kids ask big questions, and the answers surprise not only kids, but parents too. Today's question is a special one, so listen closely and stay curious. And before we begin, remember to watch till the very end, because a long-awaited bedtime story is waiting for you. A calm story, a cozy story, made especially for a quiet, peaceful night. Why does watching TV for too long hurt your eyes? Have you ever heard this before? Don't sit so close to the TV, your eyes will get worse. Many kids hear it every day, but is it really true? Tiansweris, watching TV for a long time doesn't break your eyes instantly, but it can make them very tired. In real life, your eyes are always moving. You look at something close, then something far away, then back again. Your eye lens changes shape all the time. It relaxes, then works again. This keeps your eyes strong and flexible. But when you watch TV, your eyes stay focused on one flat screen. They don't move much. They don't get a break. The tiny muscles inside your eyes keep working without rest. After a long time, they become tired. Betty? And tired eyes don't see as clearly. There is another reason too. A TV screen is not as calm as it looks. The picture is made of many tiny dots, and it changes very fast. Your eyes don't always notice it, but your brain does. The screen flickers and flashes many times every second. Your brain works hard to turn all of that into one smooth picture. That work can make both your brain and eyes tired. When your eyes are tired, they may feel dry. They may sting. They may start to blur. This doesn't mean your eyes are broken. It means they need rest. Children's eyes are still growing. That's why they get tired faster than adult eyes. So long TV watching can be harder for kids. Modern screens are much better than old ones. They flicker less. They are clearer and smoother. That helps. But it doesn't change one important thing. Your eyes still need movement. Looking away from the screen helps a lot. Looking out the window helps even more. And blinking is very important. Your eyes love breaks. So does this mean TV is bad? No. It just means that balance is important. Watch a little, rest a little, move your eyes. Let them breathe. Now you know something useful. Something not all parents can explain this way. The day is getting quieter now. The light is softer. Your eyes are ready to rest. And if you stayed with us till the end, your reward is here. And now the day is slowly drawing to a close. The noise grows quieter. Thoughts slow down. And it's time for storytelling. But before we begin, let's do one small but important thing. If you enjoy learning new things, if you enjoy listening to stories before bed, and if you want to come back again, subscribe to the Hamster NBC channel and like this video. This way, you'll help us create even more kind stories and clear explanations for children all over the world. Now, get comfortable. History is waiting for you. The Golden Goose by the Brothers Grimm. Once upon a time, there was a man who had 3 sons. The youngest was called Dumas, and everyone despised and ridiculed him, bullying him at every opportunity. One day, the eldest son had to go into the forest to chop wood, and his mother gave him a good pie and a bottle of wine to keep him from hunger and thirst. When he arrived in the forest, he met an old, gray-haired man who wished him good morning and said, "I am hungry and thirsty. Give me a piece of your pie and a sip of your wine." The clever son replied, "If I give you a piece of my pie and a sip of my wine, there will be nothing left for me either. Get lost." And, ignoring the man, he continued on his way. When he began to chop down a tree, he soon missed the mark with his axe and hit his own hand so clumsily that he had to go home and bandage his arm. Thus, the little gray-haired man repaid him for his stinginess. Then the second son went into the forest, and his mother, just like the eldest, gave him a pie and a bottle of wine to spare. He, too, encountered the old gray-haired man, who asked him for a piece of pie and a sip of wine. But the second son, too, answered him quite sensibly, "What I give you will be lost to me, So get lost." And, without looking back at the little man, went on his way. And he, too, was punished for this. He barely had time to strike the tree twice when he slashed his own leg so severely that he had to be carried home. Then the fool said, "Father, let me go into the forest just once and chop some wood. What do you know about that? Your brothers are smarter than you, but what harm they've done to themselves. Don't go." The fool, however, begged and begged until his father said, "Go ahead. Perhaps your misfortune will teach you a lesson." And his mother gave him only a small cake baked in water and ashes, and a bottle of sour beer. He came to the forest, and he, too, met an old, gray-haired man who said, "I'm hungry and thirsty. Give me a piece of your cake and a sip of your drink." The fool replied, "All I have is a small cake mixed with water and a bottle of sour beer. If this pleases you, then let's sit down and eat together." So they sat down, and imagine the fool's surprise when he reached into his bosom for his flatbread and pulled out a delicious pie. He uncorked the bottle, and instead of sour beer, it turned out to be fine wine. They drank and ate, and the little man said to the fool, "You have a kind heart, and you willingly shared with me all you had. Therefore, I want to bestow happiness upon you. There stands an old tree. Cut it down, and you will find a gift in its roots." Then the little man said goodbye to the fool. The fool went to the tree, cut it down, and when it fell, he saw a golden goose in its roots. He picked up the goose, took it with him, and stopped off at an inn where he planned to spend the night. The innkeeper had 3 daughters. When they saw the golden goose, they were eager to get a closer look at this wondrous bird, and to snatch at least one of its golden feathers. The eldest thought, "I'll find a moment when I can snatch a feather from him," and at the first opportunity, when the fool was absent, she grabbed the goose by the wing. But alas, the girl's fingers and her entire hand were stuck to the wing, as if soldered on. Soon after, the other one approached. She, too, was thinking only of how to snatch a golden feather for herself. But as soon as she touched her sister, she became glued to her, unable to tear herself away. Finally, the third one approached with the same intention, and although her sisters shouted at her not to come near or touch it, she disobeyed them. She thought that if they were there with the goose, why shouldn't she be there too? And she ran up, and as soon as she touched her sisters, she clung to them. So they had to spend the whole night with the goose. The next morning, the fool tucked the goose under his arm and went on his way, not the least a bit worried about the 3 girls trailing behind the goose, who had clung to it. On the road in the middle of the field, they met a pastor, and when he saw this strange procession, he said, "Shame on you, you naughty girls. Aren't you ashamed to run after this young man? Is that how it's done?" At the same time, he grabbed the youngest one by the hand and tried to pull her away. But as soon as he touched her, he became entangled with her hand and was forced to run after the 3 girls. A little later, the clerk encountered them and, not without surprise, saw the pastor trailing behind the girls. He immediately shouted, "Hey, pastor, where are you going in such a hurry? Don't forget that we still have to baptize today." He, too, ran up to the pastor and grabbed him by the sleeve, but instead, he became entangled. As the 5 of them trudged along after the goose, they encountered 2 more peasants returning from the field with spades slung over their shoulders. The pastor called them over and asked them to somehow free him and the clerk from the bundle. But as soon as they touched the clerk, they too were tied to the bundle, and thus 7 of them were running after the fool and his goose. So they found their way to a city ruled by a king whose daughter was so pensive that no one could make her laugh. So the king issued a decree that whoever could make the king's daughter laugh would marry her. The fool, hearing of this decree, immediately went with his goose and his entire retinue to the king's daughter. When she saw the 7 men running after the goose, she burst into loud laughter and couldn't stop for a long time. Then the fool demanded that she marry him. But the king didn't like his future son-in-law. He began to devise all sorts of evasions, and finally said he would only give his daughter to him if he brought him enough drunkards to drain an entire cellar. The fool remembered the gray-haired little man, who could certainly help him in this trouble. He went into the same forest, and, in the place where he had cut down the tree, saw the same little man sitting there, very sad. The fool asked him what was weighing on his heart. He replied, "I am tormented by such a thirst that I unquench it with anything. My stomach can't stand cold water, but I've drunk a barrel of wine. But what's a drop worth if you spill it on a hot stone? Well, then, I can help you in your troubles, said the fool. Come with me, and I'll quench your thirst. He led the little man into the royal cellar, and he pounced on the large barrels of wine, drinking and drinking until his heels swelled from the drink, and before the day was up, he'd drained the entire cellar. The fool demanded his bride from the king a second time, but the king was angry that the wretched lad whom everyone called the fool dared to think of marrying his daughter. So the king set new conditions. Before marrying the princess, the fool was to find him a glutton so gluttonous that he could eat a whole mountain of bread by himself. The fool, without thinking twice, headed straight for the forest. There, in the same place, he saw the little man cinching his belly with a belt as tightly as he could and making a very sad face, muttering, "I just ate a whole oven's worth of wholesome bread. But what does that mean when I'm so hungry? My stomach is so empty, and so I have to tie my belly with a belt as tightly as possible to keep from starving to death." The fool was delighted to hear this. "Come with me," he said. "I'll feed you to your fill." He led the little man to the king's court, who ordered all the flour in his kingdom to be brought in and baked into a huge mountain of bread. But the forest man landed on the mountain, began eating, and in a single day the mountain was gone. Then the fool demanded his bride from the king for the third time. But the king once again tried to evade him and demanded that the fool obtain a ship that could navigate both land and water equally well. "As soon as you come to me on that ship, Scythakeen, I will immediately give you my daughter in marriage." The fool went straight into the forest and saw a gray-haired man sitting there with whom he shared his cake, and the man said to him, "I ate and drank, for you and I will give you the ship you need. I do all this because you have been compassionate and compassionate to me." Then he gave him a ship that could navigate both land and water equally well, and when the king saw the ship, he could no longer refuse the fool his daughter's hand. The wedding was celebrated solemnly, and after the death of the king, the fool inherited his entire kingdom and lived with his wife for a long time in contentment and harmony.